Hello，你好，新年快乐，欢迎回来，Welcome back, Happy New Year. This is Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger on February 1st, 2023. Now, some of you may say, how come you're still saying Happy New Year? It's way past New Year. Uh, the Western New Year was January 1st, and Chinese New Year was January 22nd, isn't it? Well, a lot of you might not know this, but Chinese New Year is not a one-day celebration. Chinese New Year is traditionally celebrated from New Year's Eve all the way up to the 15th day of the new year. And on the 15th is when they have the Lantern Festival, where you see a whole bunch of different color, different shapes and sizes lanterns, and people let them drift on the waters or let the wind carry them away. And this is symbolizing freeing the spirit, letting go of the old year and welcoming the new year, letting go of all the bad luck, bad thoughts in your head. So, technically speaking, since Chinese New Year was January 22nd, since today is February 1st, it is still within the scope of Chinese New Year. Thus, Happy New Year, 新年快乐. Now, traditionally, there were many, many things that people would do during Chinese New Year. And today I'm going to focus on one of them, which is the changing of the door god portrait on your door. 贴门神 is an old tradition, which in the old days, a lot of businesses, a lot of people, especially large household, would have the portrait of the household door god or door guardians on their door. And of course, after it's been there for a whole year, you can expect it to look a bit drab and uh, weather worn. So during New Year, it's time to respectfully take down the old portrait and put up a new one. Even door gods need to have new outfit and new, more colorful portrait every year. Nowadays, even though most people no longer keep the portrait of the door god on their door, it is still quite customary for people to, at the beginning of the new year, put up the door god's portrait. And at the end of the 15-day period, then you can take it down and put it away. And next year, you take it out and put it on your door for Chinese New Year. Just a bit of the nod back to the old day. So today we are going to talk about these door gods, and I believe that I have uh, made either one episode or several episodes regarding door gods in the past on Wisdom Wednesday. So this is a bit of a throwback episode where we are going to talk about them again. But this time I'm going to condense them and talk about all of them in one episode. Yes, there's more than one door god. First of all, uh, door god in Mandarin is Men Shen, 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 uh, or Shing, if you want to go with the Japanese pronunciation of Shin. Um, but in Mandarin we pronounce it Shen. Shen means God, immortal deities. Men, Men, is door, gate, entrance. So Men Shen is literally translating the door god or door guardian or immortals that guard your door. Now, depending on which part of China you might be from, there are many, many, many different sets of mention, many different beliefs as to who can be the rightful door gods. And honestly, I mean, it's one of those faith things that it's up to you who you believe is good to protect your household. You know, if you want to put Donald Trump on your door, go ahead. And it's like whatever you think is going to be good enough to defend your household and drive evil spirit away, as long as you do it with respect in your heart and you pay respect to whoever portrait that you're putting on your door. Yeah, just a heads up. Johnny Tiger is not a good portrait to put on your door. But anyway, if you want, whatever. Um, so if we really want to cover all the possible Menshen, all the possible door gods, we would be here for a long time because there are many combinations of folk heroes, of modern heroes. Some people put the uh, portrait of Chairman Mao. Some people put the portrait of Chiang Kai-shek. Some people put the portrait of some folk hero like Guan Gong, or Ma Chao or Zhao Yang, those old time, very popular Chinese folk heroes. So it can go on and on. So we are going to ignore most of those, like more localized uh, folk heroes. And we are going to focus on historically who are the door gods, who are the most recognized guardian of the door. The first one, his name is Zhong Kui. Zhong Kui. Uh, you don't need to really remember their name unless you want to. Zhong Kui. It's spelled Zhongkway. Zhong Kui. Zhong Kui. If you see him, you will recognize him. He's a really ugly, fearsome looking dude. Big guy with beard that look like they are made of steel wool, and his eyes are like cowbells, and he's said to have a very dark complexion and just a nose that's upturned and look like a pig's nose, and just as ugly and as fearsome a visage as you can imagine. Zhong Hui is commonly called the king of the ghosts. He is the guy in the underworld. He's not the king of the underworld. Don't get him confused with King of the Underworld. He's not. He's a guy who basically gets sent out to discipline any evil spirit that refuse to return to the underworld. He's the guy that gets sent out to capture any evil spirit that is causing trouble in the world. So basically, he is the terminator of all evil spirits. Uh, so a lot of people call Zhong Kui the king of ghosts. Now, the origin of Zhong Kui go back to somewhere around the Tang Dynasty, and it's a very sad story indeed. The story goes that one year during the imperial scholarly exam. We talked about the scholarly exam before, where people from all over the country come to write this huge imperial exam, and only those who pass the exam can be hired to work for the government. And the exam would happen once every 10 years or something like that. It changes from dynasty to dynasty. So, needless to say, it's a big deal. If you fail the exam, if you miss the exam, then you just spend the last 10 years doing nothing, and you have to study for another 10 years before you can uh, attend the exam again. So, uh, we had a huge episode on scholarly exam in the past, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. So, anyway, this year during the Imperial Scholar exam, there was a guy named Zhong Kui who was a genius. Zhong Kui was like a real genius. He was good at math. He was good at uh, writing essays. He was good at astrology. He was good at philosophy. Not only that, Zhong Hui was a warrior as well. So, in addition to being a good scholar, he was a fantastic warrior. He was good with arrows and horses and swordsmanship and spears and all that stuff. Needless to say, Zhong Hui got the highest mark in the imperial exam, but upon seeing how ugly the guy was, the official who was in charge of the imperial exam immediately tore up his paper and told him to go home because the official decided that if you let such an ugly guy work for his imperial majesty, it would be an embarrassment for the country, and it might scare the emperor to meet someone like that. So Zhong Hui, even though he had the highest score, he had all this talent and ability, he was told to go home. In a fit of rage, Zhong Hui slammed his head into the pillar right there at the exam location and killed himself. Like he basically knocked himself out, like shattered his head on the pillar of the imperial exam ground, and he died. And after he died, he went to hell, and as do most people, when you die, you go to the underworld, and you have to stand before the king of the underworld. You have to stand before Yan Wang to be judged to see when you go to reincarnate and all that stuff. One look at Zhong Hui, the king of the underworld, went, "Whoa, you are perfect. You are the most perfect person I've ever met." And Zhong Hui was like, "What the hell?" Like when I was alive, everybody told me I was ugly, and they told me I couldn't work for the government because I was ugly. That's why I killed myself. And here I'm being told I'm perfect. And Yan Wang said, "Yeah, dude, you are amazing. I mean, you know." And Zhong Hui said, "Yeah, yeah, well, I write very good poetry, and I'm a very good warrior." And Yan Wang said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, I don't care about all that stuff. Dude, you look amazing. You are the perfect ghost catcher. You are going to be the enforcer for the underworld. Because at one look at you, any ghost would be scared of you." Yeah, okay, that was a bit of an asshole kind of thing to say, but he actually meant it. Like, Zhong Hui looked so fearsome that his visage would scare any evil spirit. Now, back to the mortal world. When the emperor heard that, oh, there was someone who passed the imperial exam, but we decided he was too ugly, so we didn't let him in, and he killed himself. The emperor felt so bad about that, so he decided to give Zhong Hui an imperial burial, a royal burial, just to sort of apologize for what happened. Fast forward a couple of years, one night the emperor was in his dream being harassed and haunted by many, many evil spirits. Now, you got to imagine being an emperor means you got to chop off a lot of people's head and you got to do a lot of bad things to piss off a lot of people. So, yeah, there's a lot of evil spirit that's going to come after you at night. Now, so the emperor was sleeping, and all these evil spirits were around him, wanting to kill him, wanting to eat him, wanting to drink his blood and eat his brain. Wait, those are zombies. Anyway, and suddenly, out of nowhere, this golden light came down from the sky, and out walked Zhong Hui, this most fearsome looking guy the emperor had ever seen, towering over all the evil spirit. And Zhong Hui looked at these evil spirits and said, "Do not ever come near His Majesty ever again, or I will eat you. I will eat every one of you." And the evil spirit just ran away screaming. After the emperor woke up, he called the royal artist to his side and he said, "I was saved by an amazing deity, amazing god in my dream from the evil spirit. I want you to draw his portrait. I will describe him." And he described the person he saw in his dream to the royal artist. and the artist drew the picture. After the picture was completed, one of the emperor's ministers saw the picture and said, "Your Majesty, I recognize this guy. This is the guy who killed himself a couple of years ago when we disqualified him from the exam because he was so ugly." And the emperor was so touched that a person who died like that came back to save him in his dream from evil spirit. So the emperor from that day on decreed Zhong Hui to be a general of the imperial army, even though Zhong Hui was already dead. But he at least could be a general in name, if nothing else. So for many, many generations ever since then, the portrait of Zhong Hui has been used by Chinese people to keep away evil spirit, to act as a, a solution to keeping ghosts away from your household. So he's a one person ghost terminating army. The second set of door gods also came from the Tang Dynasty, and they are often seen on people's door as a more pale looking guy on the right and a bigger, dark complexion looking guy on the left. And these two guys are called Qin Shu Bao and Yu Chi Gong. Again, these are very difficult to remember for those of you who don't speak Mandarin. So you don't have to memorize them. But these two were historically real people. I don't know if Zhong Hui was historically real or not, but Qin Shu Bao and Yu Chigong were real people in Chinese history. They were two of the Tang Dynasty's most famous generals. Um, Long story short, how did the Tang Dynasty's two most fearsome generals end up on people's door? Well, like I said, the emperors do a lot of bad things. Emperors piss off a lot of people, and so did the Tang emperor at the time. Now, to become emperor, he actually had to kill his own brothers to get there. So, for a long time, the emperor couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he felt that he was haunted by angry ghosts and evil spirits of his family members that he had to murder. And the emperor was getting weaker and weaker by the day. Finally, he had a big meeting with all his advisors, and he said, "I don't know what to do. Every time I close my eyes, these ghosts are trying to get me. I don't know what I can do about that." So at that time, the two most fearsome general, Qin Shubao and Yu Shigong, came to the emperor and said, "Your Majesty, we are willing to stand guard at your bedchamber every night. We, between the two of us, we killed many, many, many people in our lifetime. We are not afraid of any ghost. Ghosts are afraid of us." So from that day on, till when they died, these two warriors would serve their royal duties in the daytime and then take night shift outside the royal bedchamber at nighttime. Uh, but after a while, both of them were starting to, get really tired because they were not getting enough sleep. They have to go fight battles in the daytime and lead armies in the daytime and then come stand outside the door at night. So the royal minister said, "Well, we can't keep this up. We need those two warriors be able to do their duty. So why don't we just put their portrait on the door? That will get the best artist in the entire country and draw their portrait and put them on the door, and that will serve to keep the evil spirit at bay." So from that day on, the portrait of Qin Shubao and Yu Shigong, the black and the white um, door gods, became very popular throughout China, and it's still widely used today. Last but not least, I'm going to tell you about a third set of door gods. This is again two uh, gods that are called Shen Shu and Yu Li, or Yu Lü. Shen Shu and Yu Lü. These go back way back to uh, I guess you can say paganism. These went back to 2 or 3 thousand years, and these were worshipped as door god before Zhonghui, before even Qin Shubao and Yu Zhigong. Shen Shu and Yu Lü uh, were worshipped primarily because in the old days, people believed that in the middle of the ocean there was a beautiful island. On this island was a tree, and this tree was the tallest tree in the world. On top of the tree, there's a golden rooster that would announce the arrival of the sun every day. Under the tree was a secret passage into the underworld, and through this passage, ghosts would come out at night to roam free, to exact vengeance on the mortal world, and at daytime the ghost would go back to the underworld through this passage. Outside this passage was two more immortal guardians, and they were called Shen Shu and Yu Lü. They were the door gods to the underworld from pagan belief, and it was their job to make sure all the ghosts came back. If any ghost dared not return, the Shen Shu and Yu Lü would hunt them down and feed them to tigers. Yeah, I don't know how that works. Like, can tigers eat ghosts? Apparently they can. I don't know. Like that's look. I didn't write this story. This is how the original story went. Um, Now a lot more interesting is scholars have since found out that the real origin of Shen Shu and Yu Lü went deeper than just a pagan belief about the guardians of the underworld and all that. The word "shu" from "shen shu" is actually a very old, ancient plant that used to be very common in China 2 or 3 thousand years ago. This plant was very aromatic, and its smell, its scent, was said to keep away insects and uh, poisonous bugs and animals and snakes. So a lot of people back then would keep this plant on their door as a way to drive away mosquitoes and flies and rats and snake. So Shen Shu's name actually came from this ancient plant people used to ward off bugs and rats. This plant's name was Shu, and Yu Lü, the word Lü, came from an ancient river snail that as soon as you touch the snail would go back into its shell and the shell would close up tight, sort of like a clam. And so it was said that in the old days, people would bury the shells of these river snails around the graveyard, sort of as a warding against uh, evil spirit coming and going. Uh, it was said that the snail was able to close its shell up so completely that it must be able to guard your door or your grave so no one can get in or out of the grave. So Shen Shu and Yu Lü actually came from the plant and the little river snail that people used to guard their house and their graveyard in the old time. Thank you for checking out today's episode, and I hope this was, if not strictly educational, at least interesting. And don't forget, you can find me on Instagram and Twitter as at JohnnyTiger1981. I'll be back again tomorrow for some Toy Thursday. For now, 谢谢 and 再见。